Hi there. I hope you've had a better week. For those especially who've been going through Hurricane Irma, I know it's been a tough couple of weeks, especially for some of those who have been recently out of power. They've gone through the flooding. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And in fact, that's a subject of the video today. I've been quite distracted over the last couple of weeks, reaching out to folks that I know who live in Florida, whether those are my colleagues or in one instance, it's actually a prospect, a customer, a friend with whom I'm trying to work. I've naturally been concerned about their health and well-being, their family's health and well-being, and been offering whatever I could, essentially, to be able to help them. And I've written on the blog this week about how to look at the humanity of doing business. But what I want to focus on in the video is really the reflection of what that all means when you're dealing with other human being. In other words, how does that reflect on every interaction that you have with your coworkers, with your friends, your colleagues? So the way I look at this is that in the end, no matter what you're doing in business, whether it's services or products, whatever your offerings are, you're trying to address a human problem or the problems of another human being. You're humanizing every interaction that you're having. After all, it's not just about numbers. It's not just about how do I bring up my customer satisfaction by using your product or services? How do I make sure that I get more sales? How do I make sure that my employees are happier? Each one of those certainly has a number associated with it. If there's a delay in the project, then you begin to think about, well, what effect does this have, for example, for how I'm closing out my project or how I'm closing out my sales with this particular customer? But what you're really addressing is how do I make sure that people have a better emotional, psychological state? They're happier as employees, or my customers' customers are satisfied with those products or services. How do I make sure that my customers get better sales so that they can have a richer life in the end? Or if you're somehow eliminating some mundane process so they can have a richer mental, psychological life. So no matter what you're dealing with, you're really addressing some humanistic elements within someone's life, a group of people's lives, at your customers' locations. So how you deal with scenarios like this when there's a natural disaster, I think is also reflective of what you would focus on when you're dealing with particular business problems that come up. And my recommendation is look at the human element at all times, no matter what. No matter how delayed the project is, no matter how large is the gig, or no matter if the customer turns around and says, we have to reduce how large of an engagement we're having with you, or it doesn't look like it's going to fit. For you to grind that person down is really for you to begin to grind down that friendship and begin to put at a lower value the human interaction. So focus on the human being, not just the numbers. With that, I bid you guys farewell. See you next time.